This is a blockbuster that has dominated the global box office for 10 years, and it is also the most influential science fiction movie in the past 20 years. It is obviously an old movie from 11 years ago, but it dared to be re-released at the box office without any changes, and it can even beat Avengers 4. It is Avatar. Jack was a Marine, but later retired due to injury and became a loser who could only sit in a wheelchair. He wandered around bars every day, either beating people up or being beaten up. Until one day, two senior officials found him and sent him on a spaceship to outer space without any explanation. It is now 2148, and the Earth is facing a serious resource crisis. In order to find a substitute, a group of scientists searched everywhere and finally found a planet with life called Pandora. This place is as beautiful as a fairyland, and there are many rare and precious animals living here. More importantly, there is a kind of ore worth $20 million per kilogram produced here. Driven by interests, humans came to Pandora with weapons to implement the Avatar plan and prepare to obtain more ore. But there is a group of indigenous people called Navi here. They are tall and agile, but they are very hostile to foreign races. Scientists captured some Navi people, combined human genes with Navi genes, and cultivated a life form called Avatar. Humans can use instruments to input consciousness into the Avatar and control their actions. After 5 years and 9 months, Jack finally arrived at Pandora. The environment here is very similar to that on Earth, but humans cannot breathe the air here and must wear masks. He was very excited when he saw his Avatar, but Dr. Mary didn't like Jack. She needed scientists, not veterans. But the project leader said that as long as he could get the ore, he didn't care whether violence was used. In this way, Jack was allowed to drive the Avatar. He had no adverse reactions and quickly adapted to this new body. This was the first time he stood up since he was paralyzed. The strength of his legs made him very excited, and he soon ran like the wind. At night, Jack met the colonel of the base. The colonel thought that instead of asking scientists to infiltrate the Navi race, it would be better to use force directly. He preferred to control war machines and use violence to rob minerals, just like he treated the Indians 500 years ago. He hopes Jack can be a scientist who wants to infiltrate the Navi people, but actually he wants to work for the colonel to find minerals and understand the weaknesses of the Navi people. He also promises to help Jack heal his legs after the task is completed. The next day, Jack followed the doctor deep into Pandora. It was very magical, like a primeval forest, with towering ancient trees, lush flowers and plants, monkeys with 4 hands, and sparrows as big as helicopters. The doctor collected specimens and Jack went on patrol, but he was in danger the next second. A wooden-headed beast was staring at him, but Jack rushed towards him. Unexpectedly, the wooden-headed beast turned around and ran away. Jack was complacent, but when he turned around, a man-eating dog came behind him. Jack fled in a hurry several times and almost died in the dog's mouth. He had to take off his backpack and jump into the waterfall, which saved him. But there are many dangers here. At night, he was attacked by wolves again. He was in a desperate situation. A female Navi appeared and killed the wolves with a bow and arrow and saved Jack. Jack wanted to thank her, but was driven away because she recognized him as an Earthling. The Navi was called Naughty. Just as she was about to drive Jack away, a bunch of dandelions suddenly fell on Jack. Naughty's attitude immediately changed and she took him back to the tribe. It turned out that Naughty was a princess of the tribe and she was considered friendly among the Navi. More Navi people regard Earthlings as enemies. For example, the chief ordered Jack to be killed, but the priest said that we cannot violate the will of the sacred tree and think that Jack should be assimilated and integrated into the Navi. In this way, Jack began to learn the way of life of the Navi. The first thing he did was to take off his clothes and run around the streets naked like them, and learn to sleep in the air. As long as the Avatar sleeps, his consciousness will return to the human body. Everyone was very happy to learn that Jack had penetrated the enemy. However, the CEO discovered that the richest minerals on the planet were under the sacred tree of the tribe. The CEO asked Jack to persuade them to migrate, otherwise he would send troops. At the same time, Jack learned combat skills, the Navi language, and trained his mount under Natty's instruction. Natty told him that there were neurons at the end of the braids, which could be used to resonate with animals. Taming it was at least nothing, and the more powerful one was the air warrior. This big bird would only obey one master in its lifetime. With Natty's help, Jack successfully captured his big bird. But Natty told him that in the eyes of the Navi, whoever has the bigger bird has a higher status. If you can tame the phantom and become a phantom warrior, you can command the entire Navi. And there have only been 5 phantom warriors in the history of the Navi, and Jack's status is getting higher and higher. On this day, he passed the test and was officially accepted by the Navi. Natty was very happy to take him to the boudoir. The two of them no longer restrained themselves, tied their braids together and kissed, completing the fusion of soul and body. But the next day, Colonel The army has been sent to attack here. Jack is furious and picks up a rock to smash the monitor. The colonel recognizes that it is Jack who is obstructing him. He feels betrayed and takes a fighter plane to the scientist's laboratory. The chief orders General Suti to lead the tribe to fight. Jack rushes over and hopes that everyone will calm down. He is about to tell everyone the purpose of coming to this planet. The Colonel has already broken into the laboratory and cut off the connection between Jack and Avatar. Jack was taken back to the base and had a loud argument with the Colonel and others. After so much research, he found that the reason why the Na'vi worshipped the sacred tree was because all the trees on this planet were like a network, and the Na'vi could log in to upload and download information. For them, this was a link for communication between the tribes. The army's attempt to harm the sacred tree not only did not make them compromise, but aroused their anger. Suti and the army set fire to the tank, which also meant that the war between the two sides broke out completely. The Colonel was ready to send a large army to attack. Jack begged hard and finally got an hour. The CEO asked him to move to the Na'vi within an hour, otherwise he would attack. Jack found the chief and hoped that they would migrate immediately, otherwise they would die under the powerful weapons of humans. But the chief would certainly not compromise. This was their homeland, and they must defend it to the death. So the chief ordered people to tie up Jack and launched a battle to defend their homeland. The Colonel led the Air Force to fire tear gas, and Sutai and others immediately fought back. But facing the ironclad aircraft, their bows and arrows were like tickling. The Colonel fired incendiary bombs, and the powerful firepower made the Na'vi lose their fighting spirit, causing heavy casualties. The priest approached Jack with a knife. At this moment, the missile hit the sacred tree. With a loud bang, the Na'vi totem collapsed. After this battle, the Na'vi suffered heavy casualties. Even the chieftain died, and Jack was cut off from the connection and imprisoned. However, a good friend stole a plane to rescue Jack and fled the base with the connection room. Jack landed in the Avatar again and saw the devastation. He was heartbroken. In order to regain the trust of the Na'vi, he remembered the legend of the Phantom Warrior. At this time, the remaining Na'vi were praying for a huge shadow to fall from the sky. It was a man-eating phantom, but Jack stood proudly on it. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect Jack to have recovered the phantom, and they immediately bowed down to him. This time, Jack chose to stand on the side of the Na'vi people. He encouraged everyone to follow him to defend their homeland. Under the leadership of the Phantom Knight, the Na'vi people around the world united and prepared to fight a decisive battle with humans. Jack led the air warriors to ambush on the floating island, using the terrain advantage to kill the human air force by surprise, but the Colonel immediately began to fight back. With the disparity in firepower, the battle in the air became very passive, and the battle on the ground was even more tragic. The flesh and blood of the Na'vi were no match for bullets, and people and horses were killed. The situation became increasingly unfavorable to the Na'vi. Suti died under the gun, and Nadi's mount also died in the battle. At the critical moment, the holy tree heard their prayers and sent animals to join the battle. The elm-headed beast rushed to the front, ignoring the Na'vi, and attacked the human army. The man-eating dog took the initiative to lean over to be Nadi's mount, and the ownerless big bird beast in the sky also rushed towards the human army. Jack immediately launched a counterattack and threw a bomb into the Colonel's fighter plane, destroying it directly. Unfortunately, the Colonel jumped into the war machine and landed safely, and started a fierce battle with Jack. Jack could not resist the attack of the steel behemoth, and was caught by the Colonel's braid and was about to be slit. Nadi arrived in time and shot an arrow through the Colonel's heart, saving Jack. In the end, all humans were driven away from Pandora, and Jack, with the help of the sacred tree, completely transferred his soul to Avatar and became the new chief of the Na'vi. This movie, which was released 13 years ago, is still not outdated. It is not only a movie with explosive special effects, but also a thought-provoking work of art, which makes Avatar 2 continue to write a new legend.